Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Let me go ahead and turn my video on here. Welcome everybody. My name is Brad Waldschmidt. I'm an engineer working with the Nashville Department of Transportation on their neighborhood street traffic calming program. And we're here today to talk about Dove Creek Road. And I'm with my colleague, David. David, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is David Greaves. I work with Brad. I'll be monitoring the chat while we're meeting, so if you have any questions, feel free to post them there. We'll also take a couple breaks throughout the presentation if you prefer to share them aloud.
All right. Thank you, David. So everyone, what we're going to do is we're going to go through about a 10 or 15-minute presentation, talk about the Nashville Traffic Calming Program, why Dove Creek Road was selected, and some of the design options that we've proposed. Then we're going to show you a pretty detailed and specific design for traffic calming along Dove Creek Road. And then we're going to help talk through what the next steps will be, because ultimately it's going to be a vote. And ultimately, the property owners that own homes along Dove Creek Road will have a chance to vote yes or no on whether you all want traffic calming on your street. So we'll talk about all those things. Probably about a 10 or 15-minute presentation. If you have questions during the presentation, feel free to type them in the chat. I believe there should be a chat kind of drop down in the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen, or at the very end. We can also just ask you all to unmute if you have questions that way. But we'll go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay. David, are you able to see the PowerPoint okay here?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you for confirming that. I'll assume everybody's able to see it. So here we are talking about Dove Creek Road. Kind of went through the agenda already as far as what we'll be talking about here. So there's 3 E's of traffic calming. The first is education, and this meeting is a fantastic opportunity for education where we as the engineers can educate you on traffic calming and some of the engineering options, and you can also help educate us on what's going on your street and so with some of the data we've collected. So it's really an education for everybody. We can all work together. The second D is enforcement. That does involve enforcement of the speed limit, the posted speed limit along a street like Dove Creek Road. That is very much a part of traffic calming. However, it's not something that NDOT really has much authority over as engineers. What we do have authority over is that third E, engineering, doing something to the street to really promote cars, encourage motorists to want to maybe drive a little slower than they are. So again, traffic calming, we focus on physical solutions in residential streets, and we're trying to lower those speeds of moving vehicles. The neighborhood street traffic calming program, it is a street program. We don't look at an entire neighborhood. We do look at one street. And today we're here to talk about Dove Creek Road, and we're looking at different devices or tools to really reduce speed, which can improve safety. And we also, NDOT's trying to work to address these issues throughout Davidson County. So Dove Creek Road is one of those streets. Now we're here to talk about traffic calming. We want to make sure we answer any question during this 60 to 90-minute meeting here about traffic calming. But you may have other questions. There could be tree limbs down in the street, or you may have a question about a stop sign, or you may have something else that you really feel like someone at the city needs to know about. Hub Nashville is a wonderful resource. You can either call 311 or go to that web link, hub.Nashville.gov. Again, if it's traffic calming, David and I here in this meeting, we are your people to talk with. But anything else, we like to make sure that this resource is made known to neighborhoods and residents. So the traffic.
Can you repeat the number, please?
Absolutely. So you can either call 311 or you can go online to hub.Nashville.gov.
Hub.Nashville.gov. Okay.
Yes, that's the website.
All right, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So back to the traffic calming program. I think this may be a little dated, but about 9 or 12 months ago, there were over 400 streets for which people had asked for traffic calming to be considered. And Nashville typically chooses about 24 or 25 streets. So a lot of demand, only a few selections are made. I believe Dove Creek Road was chosen maybe over 12 months ago, and we had our first meeting several months ago. So this is our second meeting now, but Dove Creek Road would have been chosen a couple of cycles ago. So of all these streets, Dove Creek Road was chosen, and we want to talk about how. Nashville Department of Transportation goes through a data process to choose neighborhood traffic calming. First, we collect speeds along each street. So we would have collected 1 day of traffic data several months ago, maybe a year ago, on Dove Creek Road, and seen how fast cars are going compared to that posted speed limit. We also look at things like how many crashes are happening on your street. We also look at whether there's sidewalks or anything like that along neighborhood streets. And then things like, are there schools or parks or things that people are going to want to walk to? Because we want to make sure we're focusing on safety for everybody, the pedestrians walking on the neighborhood streets, bicyclists, and even the motorists as well. But all the 400 plus streets went through this data process. And again, this was a couple of cycles ago, but Dove Creek Road was one of the selections. That's why we're here today at this second meeting regarding Dove Creek Road and traffic calming. So you all know your street very well, but we like to show this map. We are here talking about the entirety of Dove Creek Road from Countryway Road all the way to Mount View Road. And you do have, again, you all know this because you live on the street, but you have a posted speed of 25 miles per hour. If we go to the next slide, again, this data would have been collected for 1 day. It may have been about over a year ago now, but it may be even today might be kind of consistent. You can see there that 85% or less of the traffic was going 36 miles per hour or less. So what that tells us is that there's a lot of people exceeding that posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour. And then you can see there how many cars per day you have, and then you can see there that your pavement width, you have a little bit of a wider street, 30 feet than some neighborhood streets. And we'll get to how we are proposing to address that in a moment. But again, that 85th percentile speed being 11 miles per hour over the posted, that was likely one of the reasons in that data process for why Dove Creek Road was chosen. And so let's talk about what we're proposing for traffic calming measures. There's a few things that we're proposing for Dove Creek Road to really work to manage those vehicle speeds. The first are these speed cushions. You may have driven over some in Nashville. These are definitely one of the more common, one of the more popular traffic calming devices. These are each called speed cushions. They are black rubberized material. We're proposing speed cushions, as you can see on that rightmost photo, that are about 10.5 feet long. There's about a 3.5 foot ramp up, and then a 3.5 foot flat area, and they're in the middle, and then another 3.5 foot ramp down. And I believe the next photo, yeah, there we go. At the highest point, these speed cushions are going to be about 3 inches above the pavement, and they're 6 feet wide. And so what that does is, speed cushions, traffic calming, they are intended to slow vehicles, but they're intended to slow all vehicles. So even something like an emergency vehicle, such as a fire truck or an ambulance, traffic calming can have an impact on how fast they go over these as well. These speed cushions are designed to lessen the impact compared to some other measures, because those emergency vehicles have a wider wheelbase that their back wheels may get up on the cushion a little bit, but it's a lot less than if it was, say, something that extended across the entire width of the pavement. And so that's the reason why Nashville likes to really focus on speed cushions to sort of balance that safety element. Many of the speed cushions here would have something like that yellow diamond warning sign that you see. Maybe not every single location, but many of the locations will include one of these warning signs. So people that are driving up even at night, for instance, with their headlights, that warning sign will let them know something called the speed cushion's coming up, so they can be advised that they're about to drive over it. Now, I mentioned another piece earlier. I mentioned that your pavement width is 30 feet. There have been studies done nationally that show that when a street has a wider pavement, sometimes as motorists, we just feel more comfortable to drive a little faster. And so one traffic calming tool that we'll consider are these white pavement markings. If you can see in each of these photos, there are white pavement marking edge lines on either side of the road. What that does, it just visually kind of creates a narrower road. Now, the pavement's still there on the outside. We don't actually redo the road physically, but by adding these white pavement markings, it does two things. The first is it visually narrows where motorists and cars understand they're supposed to drive. And it does have an impact. Not as much as the speed cushions, not as much as driving over these rubberized devices, but the white lines can help things also. And another thing that the white lines can do is it can kind of designate an area where the cars are supposed to drive versus not supposed to drive. And it can provide an unofficial sort of walking area where people kind of know that white line can kind of help delineate things. In other words, it is not a sidewalk, but it is an area that can kind of let all users of the road kind of know who's supposed to be where. And so we're proposing a combination of speed cushions and these white pavement marking edge lines along the entirety of Dove Creek Road. So what I want to do now is I want to go to this detailed design here. And this one's very zoomed out, but we're going to zoom in very closely here to show where each one of these is. Anywhere you see an upper letter C and a trapezoid, and there's 4 of them here, that's where we're proposing one set of speed cushions. And we're proposing something that looks very similar to this right here, where each spot location would have 3 speed cushions with these white edge lines. So everywhere you see one of those C's in the trapezoid, just think of this photo right here, and we'd have 4 of those along Dove Creek Road. That's what we're proposing. So we're going to start up here. We like to walk through it. We're going to start up here at Countryway Road. Here we are. So the first set of location cushions, the first set we're proposing along Dove Creek Road near the 3513 address and 3516 address. To just kind of get you all oriented. And then as we continue south, we pass Dove Creek Court. And then the next location we're proposing, location number 2, is between or in front of 3536 and then 3537 and 3541 between those 2 properties. So that's where location 2 of these speed cushions would be. Then if we go to the very next slide, now here's locations 3 and 4. The third location is very close to Mallard Creek Court, and those are in front of 3605 and 3612 along Dove Creek Road. And then the final location is right there between Pheasant Creek Court and Quail's Nest Court in front of 3629 and 3632. So those are the 4 locations where we're proposing these speed cushions for traffic calming. And it's not very shown clearly on here, but we're proposing those white edge lines, those pavement markings on both sides of the street, all the way from Mountain View Road, all the way to Countryway Road. Now, this is an example of what these speed cushions would look like if we were to, I don't know, go 20 feet up in the air, right over them, and then look straight down. These speed cushions are going to look a lot like this, where you can see there's those 3 cushions in each of the 4 locations, and then we have the white pavement markings along the entirety of the street. So that's our design that we've proposed to try to work to manage the vehicle speeds a little better through your neighborhood street of Dove Creek Road. The last thing I want to talk about, and then we're going to open it up to as many questions or comments as everybody may have. We want to talk through the process and what the next steps will be. So here we are in meeting number 2. I went through our records. I wasn't at meeting number 1. Someone else was on our team. I believe that may have been earlier this year, but I may be incorrect on that. But here we are at meeting number 2. And our intent is to listen to any feedback or comments or questions And if everyone's ready to proceed with the design we've proposed, the next step is going to be an online ballot. One of the unique opportunities that Nashville gives to neighborhoods through traffic calming is we allow the neighbors who live along Dove Creek Road to vote on whether this traffic calming design goes forward or not. And there's going to be something called an online ballot. Hopefully you all got the mailers. That's how hopefully you all know about this meeting. What we do is we send a very similar mailer, except instead of it being for another meeting, it's going to be your online ballot card, but it will look very similar, and it will take you to an online location on the Nashville.gov website where you can review the design, the same design that we just walked through together. Review the design. You can go in and vote. Each mailer comes with I call it a secret code, and every address gets a different secret code so we can make sure everybody who's voting is who they say they are. And we're going to have that voting period be open for 6 weeks. And everyone who has property along Dove Creek Road will get the chance to vote yes or no. It doesn't matter if your address is Dove Creek Road. Doesn't matter if your driveway is on Dove Creek Road or a corner lot on a different street or where you're if you have a front yard, side yard, backyard, any piece of your yard touches Dove Creek Road, you are eligible to be voting. And so NDOT keeps this voting period open for 6 weeks. And at the end of the 6 weeks, we close the voting and we look at and we count and we determine if 2/3 or around 66% of those that voted, if they voted yes. And if that is achieved, the traffic calming is going to happen. And if it is not achieved, then the speed cushions will not happen. So I'll give one example. I'm not sure how many properties are actually touching Dove Creek Road, but let's say there's 100. So 100 properties would be eligible to vote and would get these ballot cards. But let's say during the 6-week period, only 10 of them vote. Let's say of the 100, only 10 have the passion to vote. Well, if 7 of those 10 vote yes, that is 70% of those who voted voting yes. So that would be successful. So it's not 2/3 of all the property owners along the street. It's 2/3 of those that vote either way. So that those that don't vote or don't have a preference and just they don't count for or against the numbers. So that's the next steps after this meeting, is that voting process. And again, here's kind of a time frame, like we mentioned. We are seeing some delays with getting those speed cushions ordered. So, and then the contractor that NDOT uses is installing many, many speed cushions throughout Nashville. So these time estimates may change; they may get less. But right now, that's just kind of the time frame for what a successful vote, what the next steps would be. So that's the conclusion of our presentation. Really appreciate your patience and I guess listening to us. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and give everybody a chance to ask questions or provide comments. Feel free to type them in the chat or feel free to come off of mute if you prefer. Again, we're going to stay here as long as you all need. We just want to make sure we're hearing from anybody.
Wait till he tell you.
Hey, this is Laurie Sullivan.
Hello.
Hey, I'm on the board of directors as well, and I live at 3541 Dove Creek Road, which it sounded like was like the end or the beginning of one of the cushions.
Hmm.
And how does that affect now you can't even get your mail because the traffic goes so fast there. So does it hit like when like you say it's going to be at the end of 3541? Is that like at the driveway or the front part of the yard, or do we know?
Yes, we do know, and I really appreciate the question. I'm going to pull that design back up. And before I start talking, Lori, are you able to see the design again on my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. I always like to make sure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So bear with me, everybody. I just want to zoom in to try to show Lori. Okay, so you live at 3541. We're proposing this speed cushion about 45 feet west of your driveway. And so what we try to do is when we are locating these speed cushions, we're trying to space them so they're not too close to each other, but also not too far from each other. We also try not to put these cushions right in front of someone's driveway. They're intended to be driven straight directly over them. I think they can be driven at awkward angles, but it's just a little maybe not as comfortable as going straight over them. So we do work to keep them a certain distance away from driveways. So Lori, in your case, we're proposing that these speed cushions be located approximately 45 feet to the west of your driveway. Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
I think so. I mean, we've had so much. My mailbox has been taken down probably 6 times, and I've lived out there since I don't know. I've been out there 30 plus years,
Gotcha.
and so I just wonder when they go over the cushion, is there any chance they can still veer off to to the yard? I
Right.
guess they could if they try to go over them too fast. I mean,
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I'll be honest, it's possible. I wish I could tell you nobody's going to do that. Unfortunately, based on our experience as engineers, and even just my personal experience, just living in a neighborhood here, some people just want to maybe drive not as safe as they should. So there may be a few people that try to avoid them, but for the most part, the speed cushions should be effective over managing speeds because cars are going to have to go over them. One thing that we have been doing is also when we install those signs, please bear with me, I'm going to go back a couple. Many of the speed cushions will include one of these signs with a signpost to kind of let people know what's coming. What we have been trying to do is position these signs and these posts almost right adjacent to the speed cushions. So if someone is tempted to maybe drive a little dangerously, like they shouldn't, and try to go off the road, which they shouldn't do that, we've been working to put these signposts kind of right in that area to maybe deter those motorists from being tempted to do so.
okay. And when the ballots come out, is that one per household or is it one per, let's say my husband might not want it and I might, but is it one vote then per?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So it is one vote per property owner. So if you both are listed as the owners on your property, you'd be getting one vote.
Okay. So I have to make sure he doesn't see it, which he won't.
Okay, I will leave that to you all to work through all that. But yes, it is one vote per property owner. So in that case, it'd be one vote.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, I have one question. My father, who actually lives on the property of Dove Creek, he wants to speak and ask a question.
3604.
All right, so ask him this.
What was the question? Oh, I'm just when is the voting? I want to know how do I get a chance to put my vote in?
Yes. Are you a property owner along Dove Creek Road?
Yeah, I'm at 3604 Dove Creek Road.
Okay. Yes. So after this.
We have had 7 accidents on this road here, like mailboxes. I done had 2 mailboxes destroyed. The neighbors just had another truck got hit on this street last week. This is terrible. They come down this street here. This is like 25 miles an hour. They're doing like 40, 50.
Dove Creek and Seasons Road.
Yeah, it is actually terrible. So I want to know when is the vote again? I mean, when we actually vote.
Right. So similar to the mailers that NDOT sent out for this meeting that you got in your mail, NDOT
Okay.
will also send in the mail a ballot. You haven't gotten it yet.
Okay.
My guess is it's April. I'm looking at a calendar real quick here. It's April 3rd. If I had to guess, you and everyone along Dove Creek Road would get their ballots in the mail maybe sometime next weekend, not this coming Easter weekend, but the following weekend. So like April 14th, 15th, 16th. I would think that you'd be getting those ballots in the mail around that time, and then you'll have up to 6 weeks to vote if you
Oh,
want.
okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah,
Excellent.
but I want to make sure I'm on that. I'm voting because it is terrible.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that'll be your opportunity to vote.
Even though this street is wired, but it's no, like there's no line in this street. This street is a little wider. You would mention that some part of it is a little wider than the average street, but you can't see over the hill. And what happened? These people be across, which is not a divided line. You follow me? And they be
Right.
all the way on the other side, and it's something serious waiting to happen. Because they
Right.
be in the middle, they're in the middle of the street.
Right. Yeah, we're not
and they are speeding.
yeah, we're not proposing the yellow lines in the middle, but we are proposing those white lines on the edges, and we are proposing many locations of these speed cushions, so cars
Yeah,
will.
the speed cushion is my preference.
Okay. Well, and
Okay.
just to be clear, the speed cushions are what everybody's going to be voting for. So if the vote is yes after the 6 weeks, then the
Yeah.
speed cushions will happen. If the vote is no, if you don't have enough, then you won't get the speed cushions. But either way, go ahead.
Yeah, either way.
Either way, the white pavement marking edge lines will happen. So whether the vote on the cushions are successful or unsuccessful, these white edge lines, which this is another photo example, these white pavement markings will happen along Dove Creek Road, but the speed cushions are really the part that's up to vote.
Yeah, that's what I want, the speed cushion.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
you'll definitely have a chance to vote. Again, those ballots will probably come in your mailbox in about a week and a half or 2 weeks from today.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
You can go. You can cut it.
Yeah, what other questions or comments does anybody have?
Can you hear me? This is
Yes.
Carrie. I live at 3513.
Okay.
I have a question similar to what Lori had regarding where they would be placed, because my driveway is adjacent to the driveway next to me, so I'm not sure how it would not be, I guess, blocking or intersecting with my driveway.
Yes, thank you very much for asking that. So what I've tried to do is, hopefully you can see on my screen, I've tried to zoom in to where the speed cushions are being proposed in front of 3513. And what I want to note is they're actually, I see that driveway that's very close to you. We're actually proposing them on the other side. So go in the opposite direction. We're proposing them very close to the property line between 3513 and 3517.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, great questions. We want to make sure we're making sure everyone's informed before the voting happens. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
No, we just need to lobby our neighbors and make sure we're all in agreement that this needs to happen.
Gotcha. Yeah, that can definitely be a good thing to do, is make sure people know about it who don't know about it, so they know to expect something in the mail to vote.
Yep.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, we don't want to rush anybody. We're here as long as you need. So yeah.
If people don't have access to the internet, what do they do?
Yes, so the mailer ballots will have a link, have the information to go to the website to be able to vote. It'll also have the name of the gentleman at NDOT. His name is Gil Thomas, and it'll provide Gil Thomas's phone number. And so if people do not have internet access but would like to vote, there will be directions on that ballot that they can call Mr. Gil Thomas at that phone number and record their vote that way.
Okay. I can't think of any more questions, so thank you very much.
Okay, you're very welcome, Carrie. All right. Well, yeah, last call for questions. Otherwise, we are prepared to finalize the design we've presented, and we think that those voting cards will come in about a week and a half or 2 weeks. All right. Well, yeah. Well, sounds like everyone has gotten the information they needed. So we'll, on behalf of NDOT, we'll thank you very much for taking time to talk about Dove Creek Road and traffic calming. And you can be on the lookout for those mailer ballots in your mailboxes in about a week and a half or 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
All right. You as well.